Hey everybody, welcome to another GMG project. Today we're looking at WARCROW Winds from the North starter set, a 2-player introductory battle pack. This is currently up for pre-order on the Corvus Belli website for 124 euros, roughly 150 bucks US / Canadian, and is a all-in-one 2-player starter set, which includes an introductory booklet explaining the core rules for the miniatures in this box. The core rules for the game itself are available for free online, and there is also a bundle that comes with the hardcover rulebook, and this guy, a Northern Tribes Alwart Ice Bear. Who doesn't want an ice bear? If you have kids, you may have watched something called We Bare Bears. And they have a guy named Ice Bear, and I can only think of him now when I look at this miniature, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to start off building the hegemony today, just so we can do a little review. If you are one of my patrons on Patreon, you've already seen this, because you've seen the uncut version of this, where I do some live sit and chat. I will be speeding up and slowing down the video as I do like just Q&As with the patrons, but I'll basically stop as we finish each miniature and start each miniature to give like an overview of sort of like how it looks and where it's at. Next video for this is going to be on the terrain, so you get to see that later on in the week as I put together the cardstock terrain and show you some tips and tricks on how to get that to be as nice as it can possibly be in the same format. And like I said, if you're a patron, you'll get to see it early tomorrow on Tuesday, and then you'll see it later on next week if you are not a patron, as well as actually some stuff for Space Hulk tomorrow too. So if you're a Throwback Thursday fan. Anyway, let's dive in and start building some of these WARCROW things, and I will be talking to folks in the chat as I start scraping lines, because you guys don't need to listen to me do that. And let's dive in. First off with, let's see who this is. It's like doing blind bags. You know, when your kid, I don't know how many people here have kids, but there was a phenomenon for a while where kids liked opening blind bags. There was like a whole thing on that. So we've got a couple of vent pegs in the bottom here. You can see these are like the space where the Psyocast is being injected in, and they're easily clippable. The bases themselves are 30 mil. These are the same bases that the Aristea miniatures came on. So they are untabbed with any kind of line of sight markings, but they do have a pre-drilled magnet hole, which is super handy, and a single point of injection that you can just scrape these off of. So move that up slightly, so I'm making sure this is on screen. I just realized I might be getting in the way of my own scraping and cutting here, which we'll try not to do. And yeah, like very little flash, very little mold lines. These are looking pretty good, actually. Maybe I can title card out for a second and actually zoom this in a little bit. Nope, without raising the roof, that's as close as we're gonna go. I can get a zoom lens and make that tighter for the next one of these maybe, but this is where we're gonna be at for today. So just scraping off the bottom here, yeah, there's like almost nothing to clean. The detail is nice and tight. There is a tiny bit of injection in the peg. So there's a square peg for putting this arm on. The arm itself has one little flashy bit on the elbow. I'm not gonna clipper that off because I'll probably take too much. And we'll just clean it off with the hobby knife here. All right, so we got the scabbard separate, we got the shield separate, and we got the sword arm separate. That's a nice long vent I can take off. Yeah, the most really extra cleaning these require is the actual vent itself. There's one little tiny vent on the bottom here. There's a tiny bit of flash on, no, actually the vent at the bottom of the scabbard. And I can just clip that off right there. But for the most part, we're looking pretty good. That's it, cleaning done. So we'll see if I need Zip Kicker. I probably won't. I'd prefer not to use it because I'd like to live longer. But with a little bit of this Bob Smith Industries glue, these guys typically go together pretty quickly. I can show you a trick though if you don't like aerosolizing this stuff. Yeah, that vent looks fine. Hold that for a second. If you don't like aerosolizing Zip Kicker, you don't have to. You can do this a different way. Although what I'll do sometimes is just take the top off as opposed to spraying it, and then use this nib to just place a drop of it where the joint is, and just that drop right there will cause it to adhere perfectly. A little bit on the feet here, and then what I'll do instead is, again, I'll put a little bit of this on the base, and then just throw that sucker down, and she should dry pretty much instantly. There we go. And this little bit on the shoulder. And what you can do is, if you want to, again, have this happen rapidly, put the glue on one side, and even just like the fumes from the zip kicker on the other side, like that. I use this mostly for metal miniatures because it helps this happen really fast. And then that will set damn near instantly. There we go. And it's just this little scabbard, which appears to have a little block right there to go on. And now where do you sit is the question. I'm not super sure. Oh, you on the hip there. We'll put a little bit of that zip kicker in the hip. So if you're worried about health concerns with this stuff, that's my trick for not having it matter. Here we go. And it's already set, done and dusted. Number 1 is finished. All right, let's catch up with the chat and then we'll grab another one to build. Jim says, I might download the rulebook and then take it to a printer for a slightly nicer binding for my printer. Yeah, and you can do laid flat too, like you do spiral binding, which is kind of nice. Leo Patrick checked in. I think usually checks. Nice try, SL Barrett. All right, let's do the rest of these guys. This is the other one of these. What are they called? Hetman, Buckleman. The Buckleman. I think this is the Hetman of the Buckleman, though, the leader type. So let's clip off all these vents real fast. The nice thing about this particular cutting mat is I know where my hands need to be at all times to be in the shot, because it frames the shot for me with this little square in the middle. All right, there we go. This one's got a few more. It looks like they're not injection points. It looks like they're actually vents so that any excess material can fly out. There's a couple of like little venting pieces, which I'll just knife off here on this wing, which I believe goes on the back. One nice thing about the way these are designed is you really don't need instructions. Like, they're very obvious how they go together, and the places of connection are all shaped uniquely, right? So like the little square peg that these things sit in is going to be unique to the one that it's supposed to go with. That's already done. So we'll just do a little glue on the feet here again. Good job, Buckleman. All of that to get it to set instantly. Drop him down. And then just checking this guy. That sword is totally clean. Like, these require almost no cleaning. Like, the material itself is pretty robust. And the one thing I really like about it is there's like so little like having to, like, there's more cleaning on GW plastics I find than on these Siocast minis. And they go together more like traditional miniatures, which for some reason pleases my old brain. It just makes me happy that they go together like sort of classic sculpts, because they're spin cast. They're spin cast in different material. A little bit right there. See, this one would be a giant pain in the ass to put on without any kind of accelerator. But instead, it's done. Like that. And I have inhaled very little of this because it hasn't been aerosolized in front of me. And while I know technically people will say, like, don't worry, that zip kicker is not that dangerous, it is completely carcinogenic, and if you do this as much as I do, you should worry about it. If you build a lot of miniatures, don't aerosolize your accelerators. It's just a bad thing to do. Even wearing a mask doesn't really matter to stop that stuff from getting to you. All right, there's the Hetman done. And I believe there's one more of these guys. Yep, there he is. To clean and put away. Not bad so far. So we're like, I don't know, 15 minutes into this, and I've already built 2 of these 14 miniatures. ASL Baron asks, did anyone catch the Infinity animated series trailer? I think the whole internet did at this point. There's a big, I think they're going for an Astartes thing. They're trying to have it be big enough that non-miniature wargamers check it out. And I think it's pretty likely that people do. It looks pretty slick. The voice work is really well done. My only gripe with it so far is it's not done with mocap. It's done with like, I don't know, just precision animation or whatever. The actual motion of some of the people feels a little video gamey. It feels a little like mid-2000s video gamey. But apart from that, the visuals are really nice. The faces look good. overall the vibe is good. I think picking those two factions really helps to help you understand the Infinity Universe, understanding the Silk Trade and like how important it is to commerce and to making cubes so that people can live forever. It's a good kind of an altered carbon way to explain what's going on. And I love that I think the assassins are going to be the protagonists, because I think that's a great way to show the unique vision of this universe and how it incorporates like the multicultural sort of like, you know, like human sphere, and grounds it into like today's world, but does it in a way that's not reductive. You know what I mean? Like it's very not reductive. It's a very unique take on these things. And overall, I'm pretty excited to see it brought to the screen. I forgot this guy's scabbard, so I'm just gonna fire that in there real fast. Oops. And then we're gonna get this guy in his base. Yeah, I don't know. They also made a AI. They made a chatbot called Sibylla, which is the in-universe AI chatbot that like is like your daily helper. It's your Siri basically in the Infinity Universe, and doing that as a like a gimmick, an advertising gimmick, I thought was really neat. They're really going hard into the marketing this summer. They're spending some marketing bucks. They're going a bunch of different places, and that feels like I don't know, like a big push for them. They're moving into other spheres. Having a TV show is a big deal. It's a way of marketing that doesn't require you to produce things constantly. You only produce them once. So this buckleman is pretty dynamic. They're up on a tactical rock. Actually, all these are up on tactical rocks, but this one's really swinging their sword. And so far, that sword is completely straight, no bends. Very happy with like the condition of the miniatures. And the shield is good too. Yeah, like so little cleaning. These three went together super fast. Just some basic insta-cure with a little zip kicker. Although I don't really think I needed the zip kicker. The nice thing about the Siocast is it's so light that even like a slight drying of the, like I won't use zip kicker on this scabbard. Even a slight little bit of drying around the edge of stuff is enough to hold it in, and it's done. That's the buckleman all done, I'm pretty sure. I think there's only 3 of them. Should we do the boss? No, this isn't the boss, this is the mage. Let's see how the mage is looking. He's an elf, I'm pretty sure. Some kind of elf. Some kind of elf wizard, some kind of good elf, not one of the bad elves that fight for the northern tribes. Well, bad elves, whatever, dark elves. Drow-ish looking dudes. This guy's got, again, vents on the heels. They're hiding the vents where the model's gonna contact the base, which is super smart. It's just a good way of keeping it off. There's a tiny little vent on the head, but it didn't really impact anything. And there's a teeny little bit of flash on the bottom of this cape. One little mold line right there. That's really it. Maybe a tiny bit of flash in between those 2 flaps of cape right there that I can peel out. But other than that, squeaky clean. They've also put 3 supports. You can see this. There's 3 supports along the staff here, keeping it straight. So if they just done 1 vent in and then no supports, there'd be like ample opportunity for this to bend while it's drying. But having, actually it's 4 total if you count them on the end here, means that this has had no chance to change shape and warp while it's cooling, or while the material's solidifying. And while it does mean you've got multiple contact points to clean, I'd rather have a straight staff and not have to deal with like straightening it and just clean off a couple extra burrs than have to deal with like hot water and trying to get this thing to actually look like it's supposed to. And they're in unobtrusive areas, so cleaning them is not going to cause any kind of detail to get lost, which is good. All right, that's cleaned. There's a teeny one on the bottom there. And then we got a hand that's casting, and we got a book with magical words in it. All right, that's all done. It's got a little, I guess it's more like staff fire. I think that's the other hand right there. So that's going to come out from under the cape. Right there, it looks like. And then this is going to come out from here. So let's do the base first again. It's a little bit of glue on these feet. Throw down a bit of that, let her cure. And then we'll do this guy first, I think. This is the staff hand, so it's going to go under here. I can put a little bit more of this Instacure in here, just to get that to land properly. Oh, there's one little vent I missed on that side, which we'll clean off. And then that can go in there, looking good. And on the other side, I didn't miss anything really. There's one little bit of burr that I can clean up. That's actually gonna get hidden by the cloak. And then yeah, this attaches to the book. He's like casting out of the book, weirdly. So the hand will do first. And throw a little cure in there. And then when that's set, I'll attach the book. And it's going to attach to the front of the face. There we go. It's going to attach right there. Actually, I could probably clean that a little bit more just to make sure that's not in the way. But I think it's good. Bit of glue there. He's like hovering with magic, the book in front of his hand, which is kind of cool. So we'll put some Insecure on that. And then throw this down onto here like this. There we go. All done through the magic of using the proper tools. All right, who's next? This is going to be the Plague Doctor with his cool Plague Doctor mask. What's his name? I forget the unit names. Buckler, or Buckleman, sorry. That was a Frostfire Herald. This is the War Surgeon. I've done the Hetman. And then it's going to be Dragoslav. All right, let's do the next guy. It is meltingly hot in the studio today. It is like 100 and something probably outside by now. And it's probably in the 80s back here, which is nice, which means I've managed to successfully keep this warehouse from being overly warm. But it's kind of turning into an early season episode of Yamad right now, where it's very, it's very hot back here. And then let's clean off the burst from that. Yep, just 2 injection points on the feet again. Everything else looks good and clean. The head and then the satchel and armor, another one. It looks like there's a vent on this I can clean off. But we're clipping right along here. We're pretty much done this half. Am I missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Oh no, it's 6 aside, never mind. For some reason I thought it was 7 aside, which would have been probably because it was a rugby term and I immediately gravitated towards that. All right, let's just do a little dot of this and a little dot of that. And then that will dry down. And then Dr. Mr. the War Surgeon. It's looking pretty cleaned off. We got a vent up top. And a vent on the bottom. And they're on the elbow. We can clean off. And I do love his little Plague Doctor mask, his little like hooked mask. For my patrons, we could say that this is a Pathologic 2 mask. And then, yeah, we'll put a little on there and a little on there. And this guy can just get fired together. Oh yeah, super easy to build. And what a great miniature. See, this kind of like, this War Surgeon with his creepy plague mask, this is the kind of unique look that I think this game needs to set it apart. It needs to have stuff that has like a, oh, that's cool, kind of like, no one's done that recently in a game, kind of a vibe. All right, and then here's Dragoslav, and oh, that's the Lost of the Buckleman, that's who that is. Yeah, it's the Hetman, and there's 3 Bucklemen, and then there's the Fire Mage, the character. and the War Surgeon. Oh, he's just 2 pieces. This boss man is super easy to build. Yeah, his cape needs a little bit of work to clean it off, but he is real easy to build. It's funny, his sword is actually, like, if you look at it, it's in his cape. Like, it's sheathed inside of his cape. He's very easy to build. Detail cuts are pretty good. And then we got a couple vents on the feet here, which we'll clean off real quick. And one thing I will say, these miniatures are coming in, I would say, the correct amount of pieces for a beginner set. Like, the most complicated thing to build so far is that Fire Mage, and he was only in like 3 or 4 pieces. That is a smart complexity amount for a 2-player starter set. Like, I have to think, like, could my kid build this? And if the answer is yes, then I'm like, then this is probably an okay amount of complexity for a starter set, right? If Cash could put this together, then, and like have it like not destroy his attention, then this is probably the right amount for someone to get started in this game. I should probably have used some of this. Let's just go use it like so. And then put a little bit on the back. And he'll be all done. The 30 mil bases look big on these human miniatures, but I think when I get to the Northern Tribes guys, they are not going to look so big. Because those orcs are huge. All right, so there's my 3 character models done, and then it's just the last buckleman, and the hegemony is done. Is everyone proud of me for the way I say hegemony? Let's check in with the rest of these dudes so far. The first expansion is 3 models aside. I think you need 2 expansion boxes to get close to 250 points. So it looks like the expansion's at 75 to tribes and 60 to hegemony. Well, the bear is 60 points. So I believe this one's 125 aside. So yeah, the wise mane is 15. We're like 40 with the evoker, 70 with the wrathmane. Alborg is 50, so 120, 140 with the orc hunters. So 140 on that side. Maybe it was 150 I was looking at. And then Dragoslav is 40, 60 with the buckleman. We're looking at 85 with the hetman. And then another 40, so 125. 125 to 140. If you get the bear, who's Northern Tribes, you're at 200 points for the orcs already. So you're at almost a full army. So I'm imagining that you're getting, probably the expansion comes with slightly more points for the hegemony, and then slightly less points for the Northern Tribes. Because they've got potentially a bear already, which is a lot. All right, the last of the bucklemen. Again, nice and clean for the sculpt, no flash. This guy's just got a little piece on the elbow here, and then probably a vent on the shield. Yep, the vent on the shield over there. Elbow again. I like that cut where the head and the arm are attached. Yeah, these are really well designed from the point of view of having a miniature that's relatively easy to build without instructions for a beginner. Like, they're all bagged separately individually, so you don't mix up the pieces. You just open a bag and put them together, and the pieces are all really self-explanatory as to where they go. All right, last ones. All done. And then we got this 2 arms and that scabbard. Let's do you, Mr. Scabbard, first. And then a little bit on the shoulder there, and I think we're good to go. Yeah, there's the shield. And then it's just this head/arm. Yeah, the piece count is nice and low per model, like 3 to 4 pieces per model. I really like this guy's pose. He's kind of like standing forward on the rock. He's bigger than the rest of the bucklemen. I've accidentally stuck myself to the scabbard like an idiot. There we go. Put that back in. I like him quite a bit, actually. I like his like forward sort of like momentum. And that's it, one side done. All right, let's dig. I got 4 bases clean, so let's do some characters from the northern tribes. We'll start with the big. I want to see how these look. So I think this is the Wrathmane. He is ginormous and comes in significantly more pieces. So we'll throw you guys up there. There's the boss, the Hetman, the War Surgeon, and the 3 Bucklemen. And let's have a look at this Wrathmane. Still only in 5 pieces overall, so not too bad. The piece count's still pretty good. And that means we've got a bottom piece here with 2 bottom vents. They're keeping the vents on the bottom. Smart. A little bit more cleaning required on this one, and then 1 top vent. A huge arm. These are like Warcraft orcs. Like, they're so big. I will say that the orc designs are very reminiscent of like Blizzard orcs in my mind. They're way less GW orcs and more kind of like the noble savage kind of, you know, like gimmick archetype, where they're sort of like, they have a Viking kind of look to them, or like a Germanic kind of look to them. And they're supposed to be aping like a certain amount of nobility. Like, they're not covered in like trophies the way that you would think that like an orc might be covered in a trophy. Like, they don't have a bad guy look to them. They just have kind of like a living in the wilds barbarian sort of look to them. Because I don't think you're supposed to think they're bad guys. Oh yeah, he's really filling up that base. And then this torso, which is a very good size, does have a little bit of flash under the arms there, and that undercut. Where's his head? What am I looking for here? Where's the head on this guy? There it is. I'll put that together first, this head and this right arm. Because I think this is the character guy, the big boss. It should be, because his killamajig is sizable. He clearly is carrying the biggest like whomper in the group. And that's looking like that's the back and that's the front. So let's throw a little bit more zip kicker on there. Get this guy sized together. And that peg looks like it's going to go together just fine. Oh, is he leaning this way or is he leaning this way? Which way are you going, son? Going like that. Yeah, he's winding up. He's winding up to give you the smack with his big old kill stick. A little bit of flash in that. Tiny bit of flash on the end of the claw there. He has like a weird, like almost tyrannid arm. Looks like it's made out of a giant spine. And then, once again, thankfully the peg is actually shaped to match. These are relatively self-pinning. Oh, geez. Screwed that up, Ash. That's okay. It's because I was twisting it around too long trying to figure out where it all went. Yeah, just do it again. The accelerator was already doing it works when I was trying to like spin it around to figure out how it went. So just gotta do that from scratch. But now I know which way he's going. There he goes. And then put the head on. With a bit of this. I think I already cleaned it, didn't I? Maybe not. Not that it needs a lot. Just that little tiny bit on the back of the head there. And he's looking pretty. He looks like late career Jesse Ventura. When Jesse Ventura was wearing a lot of bandanas to cover up his Hulk Hogan receding hairline. He's like the orc version of like late career Jesse, which I'm very into. We'll just call this guy Orky Ventura, the great governor of Minnesota. Oh God, I forgot he was the governor of Minnesota. Nothing makes me happier than remembering when wrestlers became public figures in America. All right, there we go. That's done. And then his arm's on. And holy moly, look at the size difference. Yeah, he's sticking this guy next to a Buckleman. That base is looking real small all of a sudden. Very different. So the 30 mil base is probably a good idea, just they can have all kinds of different figures on them and not have them look crazy. Who do I want to do next? Let's do Wizardy Whizbang. And we'll save the units for the last ones. And I'm melting, so we'll take a break after this. I'm gonna check in with the chat while I do that. I I was all about the hegemony before I got the box. Tribes were so much more fun to paint though. Yeah, I really like the Warcraft vibe. Yeah, they definitely look like Warcraft orcs. There's nothing not Warcrafty about these. They have that sort of like you're not sad to have them as the protagonists kind of a look to them, right? Where you're like, oh, I see how they're good guys. I see how they can be good guys. That's a giant backpack that requires absolutely no cleaning. That's cool. This piece does, however, require some cleaning. And so does this one. Not too shabby. I think that's just, there's like a tiny vent on the bottom here that we'll get rid of. And we'll put these two pieces together and then stick them on the base. Like meow. So that's a little bit of accelerator. What else are we saying in the chat here? The Governor's almost as good. It's true. Actors. That's my favorite line in whatchamacallit in Back to the Future. Ronald Reagan, the actor, never gets tired. And people forgetting that that guy was a president. My favorite Jesse Ventura moment of all time, though, is still when him and Alex Trebek were the Men in Black on the X-Files. And they showed up and talked about like how the light of Venus was most often confused with UFOs. That's an incredible. That's what's that episode called? Something Chung, Victor Chung's from Outer Space or whatever. That's one of my favorite all-time X-Files episodes because it's the one that's all done with like Rashomon, where you don't know when and how everything's happening. Jose Chung's from Outer Space. That's what it was called. There we go. All right. There's the whiz put together, nice and quick. Again, the cuts on this is making this very easy. He is a large miniature though. And then this ginormo man. And we've built the largest miniatures. I'm not gonna bother making you guys watch me build the rest of the orcs here because they are simply the same as the buckleman. But doing these giant miniatures and seeing how they fit on the base, I thought was important. This is the character. So that was the Wrathmane. This is the character model over here. He is on a huge tactical rock. Holy moly, look at the size of this tactical rock. He has a back. Oh my god, this guy comes in the most pieces apparently. He has a giant sword, lots of horns, and he is on an enormous base, or an enormous sort of like a tactical rock rather. So I think we're gonna do little sub-assemblies here. Like I'm gonna put this back piece on now, and then let that dry. And then I'll do the cape, and then I'll put the rest together. And I could paint this in sub-assemblies, but if I did, you would never see these videos come out because it would take me forever. So I'm not going to. I'm going to paint these all put together with a dash of airbrushing and a little bit of gameplay. All right, put these guys together like meow. Looking pretty good so far. I'm just going to go throw that there and throw that there. And there's this big back cowl and his head and his two arms. So these giant arms do a little bit of flash on them. His head and cowl, where he's screaming through like a giant skull. Because he's wearing a giant like wolf skull, I think, as a hat. And then that giant wolf skull has some kind of horns or something on it. I don't know, generic fantasy beast number one. Let's put some glue in there and get that down. And then it's arm number one, arm number two. We'll do the base actually at the same time. Put this guy down. And like, even without this accelerator, this would not have taken me very long. Like, obviously I'm doing this super quick, but there's no cleaning required, and we're like 30 minutes in, and I've almost got the whole box built. So let's add another 15 minutes for you to do those last 3 miniatures. We're in very good shape as far as the Christmas morning test goes. As far as like how quickly can you get this put together and be actively like playing the game and trying it out, we're probably, I would say, my guess is gonna be grand total, no painting, just assembly. You're probably 2 hours between opening your present and having fun. And to me, that's a reasonable amount of time. Like that's a very reasonable amount of like, oh yeah, I could definitely see giving this to somebody and going 1, 2, 3 fun and having them have a good time with it. Like to me, that's always the test, right? How quickly can we get to the enjoying of the loop, like the enjoying of the gameplay experience of seeing if we are a miniature wargamer and that's something we want to try out. All right, that's in there. I'll gap fill that a little bit with some glue. Push that sucker in. And then we're 1 arm and 2 horns away from done. And we're gonna call this a success. Because I've yet to encounter anything that required, like this is the most complex miniature I've built so far, and it does not require very much of me at all. The only complexity here is the piece count, and that's it. It's just it's additional pieces to the piece count of the rest of these. And then we got to put these horns in and we are done. And I'm actually just going to slice them off as opposed to trying to use the clippers. It just feels easier. And like I said earlier, like no cleaning required whatsoever. All right. Doing pretty good here. Put a little glue in the left, put a little glue in the right. Yeah, it's like some kind of mastodon skull. I'm here for that. I like a good mastodon. I like bands called Mastodon. All right, let's have a look at this card real fast to make sure I'm putting the horns on right. Actually, I can look at the back of this, can't I? There we go. They go down and out. Okay, so they're gonna go like that. Roger that. We're gonna go like this. And here's the other one. Whoops. I'm just gonna go in here. And then like that. And the job's a good one. There he is finished. Amazing. Sweet. We did it. We built all the biggest miniatures and one complete side of the Wings in the North 2-player starter set. Yeah. So how am I feeling about that? Well, as I said throughout, this is the right amount of complexity for a starter set. It has a medium to low piece count. The miniatures are all self-pinning from the point of view of they have special hexagonal joins, so you can put them together right, and they're all bagged individually. And that's really important to me because it means you can't screw up building these and they don't require really complex constructions. And that puts it on a low complexity shelf for someone to pick this up and start playing right away. At roughly 150 bucks US, I think it's 124 euros or 124.95 or whatever, which is like roughly 150 US/Canadian. It's priced appropriately for an all-in-one game experience. You can get the rules for free online if you want the full rulebook. So having the walk you through it rulebook is really no different than having the full rulebook because the rules are free, right? The next video we'll go through the terrain to see the component quality on that, and I'll start off by having the rest of these assembled too, so you can see them already and primed. And that is part 1. So part 1 passes the Christmas morning test for me. We're at like roughly 45 minutes in, another 15 minutes, take an hour to build all these models, and you would be ready to start clocking in some games. So let's say another half hour, 40 minutes for us to build the terrain, which you'll see in part 2. And I'll give you some tips and tricks on making your cardstock terrain look nice. And then we're ready to throw this down and try it out as we get through the WARCROW introductory starter set. So big thanks for watching. Big thanks for my patrons for hanging out with me while I did this. Until next time, Ash.